There we are. We are live. Hello, 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 y'all. I am Briar Harvey. This is the Neurodiversity Media Network. I'm so glad you could join us for our very first episode. First podcast. So, with me today, I have Alex Watt. She is my beautiful co host. We are here on the Maiden Mother Wise One show, and we're going to be talking about the life cycle of womanhood and everything that it entails. And it's a lot, y'all. So buckle up, basically. Our guest today is Jen Keim. Am I pronouncing it?
Yeah.
Keim. Okay. Yay, me. Of Purple Moose Photography. She specializes in plus size and LGBTQ plus portraiture. I've seen her work. It is incredible. We will have links in show notes.
Thank you.
And today on episode 1, y'all, we are going to be talking about periods and not the thing at the end of the sentence.
No.
So, Alex, take it away. We're all yours, my friend.
I'm so excited to be here, and I'm grateful for both of you actually to join me. And when I was talking with Briar, it's talking about pushing boundaries and, talking about the things that people don't want to talk about. So I'm really grateful. I know you're always open, Jen. I've known you a long time. And Briar, you're wonderful, and I know you're open. So I'm really grateful. So we're going to talk about periods, menstruation, moon time. There are a lot of words to call it what it is. And so I just think it's really important that we talk about our connection to it and when we first got it, and then work through kind of how it's changed and how we feel about our bodies through it. So if you don't mind, Jen, how old were you when you first got your period?
So I actually had to do some math on it. So I think I actually was 11.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
And what was your experience with that? Were you prepared for it? Did your mom talk to you?
Gosh, no. I think I hid the first 3. Yeah. Which is really common, unfortunately, right?
Yeah.
That's just how I grew up, and toilet paper in the pants,
Yeah. And you know what? That's very similar to my experience as well. I actually got my period the first time when I was 10. And I remember looking down and being like, no, that's not what that is. And that panic and being like, no, it's not happening. And my body betrayed me in that moment. I was like, no, I am too little. All my friends are boys. I'm not doing this. And then it came again the next month.
Like it does, unfortunately, every fucking time. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And so how did you feel about it once you did get your period? And kind of tell me a little bit about that experience for yourself.
Oh, it was fully a thing of shame for a very long time. That was not really talked about. My mom was like, I need these things. I got my period. Mm-hmm. And so then after that, she's like, oh, okay, well, here, I'll take you to the store. I'll get you this. But it was still kind of under the level, not something that's talked about. But my mom's really low key on any body movement type stuff. So very conservative in that realm.
Yeah. And do you feel like that was tough for you at that point? Because I know you're not conservative at all, and neither am I. So coming from parents who kind of feel mine's not conservative, but she kind of was about it. And so how do you feel about that experience? Because we don't have daughters, either of us. So it's what would we have spoke into ourselves at that age?
I know, right? So I talked to the boys about it to some degree, a little bit, and just mommy hurts and stuff. But I wish I had a daughter just so I could help rewrite that story. But instead it's looking at it from the perspective of being a boy mom.
Yeah.
And how can I change that story? Because for myself as a narrative, I wish I knew that it wasn't something to be shameful about. I could just that things were ready for me to go. So there wasn't even the option to it. We had stuff there ready to go, that it was talked about, that it wasn't this hush thing that happens every month.
Yeah, I agree. And for me, it's my mom came in and she was like, you got your period, and started to cry on the floor. And I was like, what? I'm I'm 10. Don't Like, don't cry in front of me. And it was like this big, like, you're a woman now. And I was like, hey, I've never felt like a woman. I don't feel like a woman. I have all boyfriends, and now my body's betraying me because now I'm getting a period. Now I'm being forced to be a woman.
Yeah.
And that was tough. That was a tough time for me. She had always told us about sex because I am a survivor of child abuse and stuff, so I knew. But it didn't like help, because it was like, well, you got your period and don't get pregnant. It was like, that's the next normal step. And it's like, well, I'm 10, so I'm not going to get pregnant. And it's like, okay. And I know that she was trying to be supportive. She did the best that she could in that moment. But for me, it's like, I needed definitely a lot more between those gaps. I needed a little bit more. Mm-hmm. And so how do you feel about it in terms of like, did you struggle with body issues and like feeling, I know for myself that I was scared that I would be dirty from having my period. Mm-hmm. And that was like a kind of like, you got to stay clean. Don't be dirty. Don't like bleed through. And it's like all that shame and embarrassment to something that's so natural in our bodies. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. The shame of like bleeding through like was just like, is still even now it's just like, oh God, I hope that doesn't happen. Like you're better prepared as an adult, but like still, but like as a kid, that's horrifying.
I mean, real talk. Do either of you actually own a pair of white pants?
I do now. I don't have a uterus.
Yes, I don't own white. I own yellow now. Bright yellow.
Yellow's a good one. Yeah. No, I would not be caught dead in white underwear or white pants. Never.
Yeah. So yeah, same thing. And like, so French Italian heritage. So puberty, had friends with like blonde hair and stuff. So like, they're like, oh yeah, I have leg hair. I'm like, you can't even see it. Like, no. Meanwhile, I got like thick leg hair, like hair period. So it's like, got your period, got a shave, got small boobs.
I wished mine was like, got your period, got double D boobs by the time you're in grade 6. You have these woman curves, and all of a sudden all these older men identify you as a woman.
Yeah.
Like, I'm 11, maybe 12. Yeah. And so for me, the body issues were definitely that. Reflecting on what I look like a woman, I look older, I'm curvy, and that struggle with it was hard for me.
Yeah, that would be, especially with your past.
Yeah. And so honoring my body and being okay with my body took a lot of healing. I had to work really hard on trusting it and loving it and moving forward, instead of hating it, like being like, this happened, it's okay, I can trust myself, it's not leading to anything else. But like my first interaction with a boy after I got my period was he tried to touch my boobs. I punched him in the nose and he got off, and the principal said, you have anger issues. And I was like, you would be angry too, my friend.
I love how that was your responsibility.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, not anybody else's, not anyone that was a male figure or an adult even, because he was much older. You know, that was put on us. It's always like, cover your body. Everything's put on us. It's like, cover your body, be respectful, don't tempt men, don't do these things. And it's like, well, as a mother of young boys, I'm changing that narrative. It's like respecting consent isn't just someone saying yes or no. It's how does their body language interact with you? How do they move into? Are they excited? And this is even for something simple like a hug. Like, read their body. Tricky people. This is the language I use. Tricky people. Does an adult ask you to help them? Well, adults should not be asking children to help them. So what's the trickiness in there? And it's teaching them to trust themselves and be safe, right? But it's like, that's put on us. That's not anybody else's responsibility.
And it's important with boys. I know mine are 5 and 11, and we spend a lot of time talking about enthusiastic consent. I don't think there's a lot of research that's been done on men who rape, and unfortunately, not all men are aware that they are rapists. And we really have a lot of reconciling to do there. How can a man be a rapist if he doesn't know that he is a rapist? And yet,
explicitly.
Right.
Right.
So the impetus then is on teaching our boys from before they can talk what enthusiastic consent looks like for them so that they can translate that to other people.
Yeah. Even simple things like you don't need to hug or kiss a family member. There are so many, looking back, uncles that would not have been uncles, quotations, uncles, who you were forced to like engage with. And there's no way I would let my children do that now as an adult, seeing the flip of it. It's like there is that predator energy within that space. And I know that Jen understands this too. And it's like, how do we honor our boys and let them know that they're empowered and they're loving and they can be these beautiful partners, and how can they consent to things for themselves? How can they create that? And it's like my boys are 2 7-year-olds and a 10-year-old, and it's like these are the words we're having these tricky people conversations, and these, how do people consent, and are they excited, and is it like reasonable? That's the other thing. It's like, what you're asking actually acceptable to be asking, because you know what's right and wrong kind of at that age. But it's like, is it acceptable to ask that of somebody else? Is that your body? And definitely having periods and a hysterectomy, my boys have seen me in not so great situations. And so their understanding of it is much different than other boys.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so what about you, Jen? Because I know that's similar.
Yeah. So because my kids are 4 and 2. So we're talking more about if they go in for a hug and is the kid turning away from you? Right? So we're like more body language, or they ask you to say no, so we don't. Or I'm tickling them, they'll be like, no, stop. It'll be like, okay, I'll stop. And I'm like, do you want more? And they'll be like, yeah. And then I'll do more. And then if they say no, then no. And then I don't. Right? And like, it's just those basic things of like teaching them that like some people just want their space. Sometimes they might want a hug. Sometimes they want space. That's okay. We're the same. You're the same. I'm the same. Everybody's the same.
Yeah, and definitely when I'm working with people, I really look for consent. And I constantly ask, like, is it okay if I ask you? Is it okay if we talk about this? I noticed something. Can I share what I noticed? I don't ever put on them. And so my clients, the women that I'm working with, we talk about this. We talk about how do we love our bodies from period on? And how can we rewrite our relationships with ourselves from that time? Because lots of women are struggling with body issues, and it stems from being disconnected from the first time they got their period. And then watching your body rapidly change in front of you and actually not being prepared for that.
Well, no, never mind the locker room talk, right? I remember being in the locker room, Alex, you're probably the same, right? And the girls are all talking about, oh, look at my boobs, or look at this. And everybody's like, kind of like in this weird, like either you're empowered by it or you're not sort of framework, right?
Yeah. And then it's like, if you're empowered by it at that age, are you actually, or what is going on there? Are we looking for love in a bad way? Are we looking for acceptance? Because we also went to the same high school, and we've heard those girls be like, well, I hooked up with this guy and I hooked up with this guy. And okay, I have no shame around sexuality and people's, but at that age, it's like, did you know, like, were you actually doing it for the right reasons? Are you moving forward and engaging because it was like something that you actually wanted to do, or because you thought you had to? And that's the narrative, is often they think that they had to connect or have sexual relations with a young boy because they liked them, or the pressure to be fitting in, even with other women. They wanted to know if you were a virgin, and that was the big thing. Are you a lesbian? It's like, oh, well, whatever, right?
Yeah, which was so hard because, like, you know, like I didn't want to date until I was in college, and I succumbed to peer pressure and got my first boyfriend, and that was the person who raped me. And so like I stayed in that for a long time because I didn't have the skills on how to get out of something when somebody's threatening you with suicide.
Yep.
Right. So I didn't have the skills on how to get out of that or tell anybody.
No.
So that whole virgin talk and trying to be at peace with my body, like that whole time period is just like busted.
Yeah. And for me, it was before my husband, right? Another partner, like a boyfriend, we want to call him because he wasn't a partner, trying to like bully me into engaging with him. And then understanding that, like, I remember getting my period once and I bled through, and he's the first person who made fun of me out of the group. And it's like, we were childhood best friends and you're my boyfriend, but you're making fun of me right now. And it was shocking to me because I was like trying to build that respect for men again, because there was a hate there, and I knew that. And then like it was really hard because it's like that respect for men and then the respect for my own body and like not feeling ashamed of it. It's like, well, you're shaming me for something I can't control.
Yeah.
It's the casual misogyny, right? How easy and quick that it comes to that place. And we don't have the vocabulary to defend ourselves against that, especially not at a young age. And even culturally now, arguably, we aren't any better at teaching girls how to defend themselves against this kind of behavior.
Mm-hmm. And that's the reality of things is like through my work, I've worked with Indigenous agencies and it's like we've talked with girls about periods and we've talked about honoring, they call it their sacredness and stuff. And it's not their virginity, it's their actual inner power. It's their power within their womb to control their moon times because they are honoring themselves and they're loving during that time. It's like, how can we bring women back to empowerment for that? And it goes back to like my first experiences of periods. It's like in grade 8, I wrestled. You can't wear a pad. So nobody had taught me how to put in a tampon. I was in the bathroom going like leg way up here going like, is that right? Does that like fit? Does that hurt? Why does it hurt? And then realizing I wrestled for 4 hours that I left the friggin' plastic on it. So the end just had come off. And it was like, but nobody had told me like the basics of that. It was kind of like,
yeah,
wear a pad. So
yeah, I've stuck with pads.
Yeah.
Yeah. For like until I've decided to like navigate that myself.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah. And it was embarrassing for me because it was like I couldn't use a pad if I wanted to wrestle. Because I'm in spandex and everyone can see, right? So it was like that peer pressure of like I didn't even get to do that on my own. It wasn't my own terms. It was like, good luck. And it wasn't just me. It was other women from other teams in the bathroom being like, Alex, I've never put in a tampon. And so I'm like showing
That's
girls.
literally how I learned swimming as a freshman in high school because you can't swim with a pad on. And one of the older senior girls taught me how to insert a tampon. I'm still to this day mortified about how all of that went down.
Yeah. Because it's like, I would have much rather had a female that I trusted and loved be like, Alex, this is what it looks like and this is how it goes in, or even helped me. Because standing in the bathroom with your foot on the back of the toilet, just like praying that it goes in the right way. And the pain, because obviously when you've been abused and stuff, your body pushes against certain things. So my body was like, I'm trying to push it out. And I'm like, I just want to wrestle. I want to like be successful in that. So yeah, it's like having that language around it and not being ashamed of having to help somebody when they feel that way.
Yeah.
But I wish that it was on my own terms as well.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then I think about my son. It's like my son's 10, just thinking about periods. There was a little girl and she bled through. And instead of him shaming her or doing anything, he took off his hoodie, tied it around her waist and said, here you go. And she knew. And like, he didn't shame her. He was like, do you want me to walk you to the office? We can hang out. Yeah. And he talked to her. And then the next day, her mom was like, you're raising such a good kid. And I was like, no. And yes, but like, that's where his heart is. He knows what that's like. But he's also seen me have miscarriages. And he's seen me have these experiences where I don't wish that upon anybody, but the life that we have, he was around for that time. Mm-hmm. And so my boys know.
That would have been so much to that little girl. Like I can only, like that could have gone so much the other way.
Mm-hmm.
And thankfully your guy was there.
Yeah. And he said he didn't even care. He was like, no, you can keep it if you need to or whatever. And he didn't like say, haha, you're bleeding out or anything. He just said, here's my hoodie. And he's like, I just wrapped it around and walked her to the office.
Yeah.
And like, could you imagine if we were all treated that way? Could you imagine if our partners or our children or people, we had that experience of something so embarrassing for us where that we were treated with such kindness and what that meant to her?
Yeah.
Like that probably rewrote her language with that.
Oh, huge. And her expectation.
Yeah.
Right. Not only her language and maybe that moment, but like also the expectation of if somebody else doesn't treat her to that level, like then she knows.
Yep. that's raising the bar, man. It's like, good luck all future people in her life, because she deserves better.
Yeah.
We all deserve better than that.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah. And so did you struggle with the unsanitary like feeling, like the feeling like dirtiness, until you understood that like obviously periods are not dirty?
Yeah, of course, because like that's totally not a talked about thing, right? And like hiding your first few periods, like I was washing out my own underwear and stuff, like in the sink, like and I just wasn't ever like really prepared for it, like because it was kind of a hush hush. So like I had pads, but okay, I never thought to bring an extra pair of underwear. You're constantly just like, and like I had no, like, other than it comes once a month, like I didn't understand what to look for coming up to your period. I didn't understand how my body changes. So it's just like this out of the blue, like around this time will come, and it was like it was stressful, to say the least.
I have to say, one of the most enjoyable practices for me of having a daughter was being able to teach her about her cycle and what that looked like and what that meant. And she is autistic, so it's all very matter of fact for us. These are the facts. This is how the feelings do not enter into these equations, which has made it a lot easier to talk about in a lot of ways, because she's not embarrassed. So it's hard for me to be embarrassed about it. This is just the reality of our bodies.
Yeah.
I wish that I had that as a child.
Yeah, me too. And so when I'm teaching and working with women or even their children, we are very like, this is factual and it's based on how their kids are. I don't really implement feelings upon it, because I want them to take in the information. And then if they have feelings outside of this, that is different. Then it's welcome, right? It's like, those are welcome questions. But when we're in it, it's like, I don't want you to have all these mixed feelings. And I always say, it's like, it's non-judgmental. It's not dirty. It's not gross. Most of us women get it. Like, and I try to say those things, right? It's like, if you're worried it's going to smell, don't worry about it. Vulva smell anyways. Like, it's like that conversation, right? It's not, we're not meant to smell like roses, number one. And you shouldn't be putting things up there that don't belong up there. That's the other thing we talk about. It's like very keeping the cleanliness around it, right? It's like wash and extra underwear, like Jen was saying, and pack extra supplies, and don't be embarrassed if you have to call me so I can help you. Right? It's like very facts in there.
That's how it should be, because it shouldn't be this wishy-washy of feelings or past stories of whoever is teaching us. Right? Because it's hard to come at that from a clean slate with something that's so involved over our lifetime. Like, it just needs to be factual.
And I think another big thing is like the shame around having sex on a period.
Oh,
or
yeah.
even feeling like horny or turned on because of it. It's like, we don't tell people this happens. It's like, you've hit puberty, you have all these excited feelings coming into your body. Shameful. Don't do it. It's like, no, that's not the way it works. It's like leading up to my menstrual cycle, it's like, I feel like I'm like a lion. I'm like, let's do this. I feel good in my body. I feel the hormones level up, and I'm a lot less in my head. Whereas during the other 2 weeks, I'm more in my head. Like my ADHD and my stuff kicks in, and I start like rewriting things and rereading things, and like sometimes looking into it too much. It's like that week before, it's almost like it's such a like heightened release for me that I feel good. I just feel good. It's like I don't even need to have sex, but it's like the intimacy is better and the communication is clearer because I feel heightened and better about it.
So you're like, I got the opposite going on. Yeah. I totally like it. Leading up to my period, I'm like, I just like, I'm gonna kick out my spouse. Like, I'm just like no. I don't have time.
Do not touch me. Do not touch me.
Like,
don't look at me cross-eyed. No.
Yeah. You better do your chores. You better like set the bar up here, and like my head's just like.
But that's my other 2 weeks, right? So my other 2 weeks are like, woo, and I'm like, stop. It's just that 1 week, and I think it's because I've honored my cycle, and I think it does have to do with my hysterectomy as well. But I still, every month, I still feel my period. That's the misconception, is people think that like once we've had our hysterectomies or whatever, we don't feel it anymore. It's like, no, every month I know I'm getting there. I do get owly a little bit, right? It's like right as it comes in, I have cramps. I feel bloated. I feel like what everyone else feels, right?
Mhm.
But my brain gets messier for that week and then the week after it. So I think that's a big part of it, is like talking to women about the hormone fluctuation and kind of the differences in all of us, like, right? So like, how do you feel when you're on your period?
And we would not know because the medical establishment does not even treat women as people. So the reality of our lived experience and what happens in our bodies is virtually, it's all word of mouth at this point in time.
Yeah. And I think this is why, like, I was going to come back around, but it's like, this is why my business is so important when I'm working with women and empowering them and people, any womb carrier or anyone, and even husbands who want to understand because they have a daughter, talking about this. I've had men text me and be like, I think she's getting her period and I don't know what to do, because he doesn't have anyone to talk with. There's like that, he's scared to ask his mom or his ex-partner or whatever. And it's like, okay, well, this is what you do. Please get these supplies and be very kind. And she may need an extra hug, and tell her that it's okay to bathe. This is another thing. Like, tell them it's okay to have a bath. They're in pain. Tell them that it's okay to sit in there. It doesn't matter if they're on their period, shower after. Let them feel what they need to feel. But there's all that shame cycle around those things.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and you know, a lot of that I didn't start to like get over until I became an adult.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it took a long time, and it wasn't until I started looking at my own self and my own stories and got through all the other stuff where I was like, okay, now I can like work on this,
Mm-hmm.
you know? And I think that a lot of women are like that. Like,
Yes.
I still talk to women. Like, I only learned just the other year that, you know, just paying attention to how much my pant size fluctuates.
Mm-hmm.
We're told that, oh, we're just supposed to say this pant size, and then like we get heavy or go up a pant size, and like we feel shame and like we should lose weight and stuff. And it's like, no, actually, just throughout your period, like that's just gonna flow up by 2 sizes.
Yeah.
Stretch pants. That's the season of stretch pants.
Right?
Totally. But also even breasts. Our breasts swell. It's like
Yeah.
with a period, and even before birth, it's like people say, oh, your boobs are going to get better once the baby's born. And it's like, no, they just get bigger. Like, and when I have my period, it's like, I don't wear underwire. There's no way these boobs are being put in anything like that. It's like, it's a sports bra. It's a tank top with a built-in bra. It's comfort, because the pressure actually bothers me. It's one of my like quirks that I don't like. I can't have like pressure on there.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And so what kind of symptoms do you have around your period, and kind of like, how does it feel for you?
Sorry, my cat is annoying.
Yeah, no. Cats are
Listen,
welcome
we're
here.
pet friendly in this joint. It's
Love
all live. So
Cats are friendly.
see, we got to take a minute and go, ooh, kitty, kitty,
Right.
kitty.
And she's a big suck, and you push her away, and she's just like, more. So
She's like, more, give it to
yeah,
me.
and she's huge. Yeah, so like I've noticed that I have like a 3-week where I have 1 week where I'd consider that like what I is like always kind of like standard, you know, and like what I relate to is normal from like when I wasn't getting my period when I was breastfeeding right after birth, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I know that that's actually my normal, right? So, and then I noticed that my pant size goes up by 2 sizes, which always makes you feel awesome. And then and then the next like week I'm like all like touchy and don't touch me and stuff, but it's like that's a week before I even get my period. So like I have something going on there, like gotta do an ultrasound or whatever, because now I'm like the week before is like a write-off, and then the week of my period, like because I usually only got it for like 4 days. My week before it used to be like only like maybe 5 days, and now I find it's lasting like, you know, sometimes 9. And I'm bitchy.
I know.
Like I said, like I'm just like, yeah, no, you shouldn't talk to me.
And for me, when I felt like that, I noticed that my hormones dipped really hard. And that's when I started getting checked. And it had to do with my endometriosis. So like, I love talking about menstruation, and I'm like, and I love hearing women be like, I get it every month. And it's like, I had mine for 4 months straight.
Yeah.
And then I wouldn't have it for a month. And then I would have it for way too long. And so like my sex life, fighting against that, it's like, I'm a very like primal, as we know, driven woman who enjoys engagement. And it's like, but then I would bleed for 2 months. And it's like, there's no touch there. There's no connection And then it was like, okay, you know what? Let's throw the book out. Because it's like, I'm not doing what everyone else does. It's like, so then how can I interact and still have sexual pleasure and interaction and intimacy when I am bleeding? Because it's like,
Red towel. I mean,
Black
that's
too.
what we use. But
or shower. Yeah, but it's like talking about this and saying like, yeah, you know what? I actually really enjoy having sex on my period. Someone would be like, that's disgusting. And it's like, well, when you have endometriosis and you bleed for 5 months, are you just going to stop? Because I'm not.
Yeah.
it's gotten painful for me after the birth of my fourth child, but that used to be a fairly enjoyable practice for us. And there's, I think, something really sacred about sex while you're on your period.
100%, because like period teachings, which is something that I talk about in my groups too, and like with women, it's like period teachings where indigenous teachings are, we're so sacred and we're so empowered during our moon time that like when we have sex with someone and if we're not in love, we're kind of taking power away from them because we're so strong and we can take power away. And it's like, but when you're engaging with your partner and there's that mutual like respect and connection, it's like sex is very sacred on your period. It's very like, for me, it's like it reminded me of that I was still a woman and it was okay for me to have sex and it was okay to feel this way and that I would be honored by him because he loved it too and me, right? It was like I wasn't letting endometriosis stop my relationship when I could have let it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And so what about like, I think sex is such an interesting conversation, number one, but periods as well, because it's so taboo. We're talking about like wonderful things and some people are going to be like, oh, and I'll be like, well, you know, if we actually talk about it, it happens more often than you think.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And so Jen, tell me about your experiences with boudoir and like periods and like women and empowering them, because you're phenomenal at what you do. And I would love to hear a little bit about that.
Oh, you're so sweet. So yeah, in regards to periods and stuff, like I say that that's usually when I talk to people too about, hey, just keep track of your cycle. Like, if we have time to plan, right? We don't always have time to plan, but if we have time to plan, I say like, hey, keep track of your cycle. Cause you like, see if your body changes, because women don't want to necessarily take all their clothes off if they're feeling bloated, if they're self-conscious, you know, like depending on how the hormones do their thing to them. Right. Cause like, we're all different. Some people feel super empowered. Some people just want to lock away in a blanket with chocolate. So and we're all different, and that's okay, and that's part of honoring yourself through doing portraiture or boudoir. And the whole point of it is to photograph you with, and so that you feel good and so you feel your best. And so if you have the time for planning, then that's great. And then if people don't have the time to plan, like I've never had a problem with it otherwise. You know, we just like, you know, do how we feel. Mm-hmm. There's so many poses and like things you can do that aren't like, you know, my work. I don't like to do close up shots of vaginas anyway.
Yeah.
If anybody wanted to, I'm sure I could do some Photoshop in there. Yeah. But like, I don't like to do that anyways. So I've never had a problem with it. You know, it's just as part of who we are, and it's part of your experience at the studio.
Yeah. And you took the first photos of me naked, and I was on my endometrial, like, it was bad. It was not good. And she was like, do it anyways. You can do it. Because I really wanted to.
Yeah.
And she really honored that. And there was no shame around it. So I was like, heck it. I'm going to get naked. Let's do this. And then I love it. I love looking back on the pictures you've taken me over life. And you've always taken them. And recently, the ones that I keep sharing, it's like you take all these like primal, real, raw photos of me. And I think that honors like women's energy. And that's something you've always honored. You always honor the women's energy, whether it be, you know, and it's like, you don't have to get naked. You can do whatever you want.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it is what is you? What is your essence? Right. Mm-hmm. Some women want to do like the classic lingerie, playgirl style type things sometimes. And other women, like, you want to dance like it was raining.
Yeah.
Like, I still love that photo of you screaming. Like, that's still like one of my favorites.
Because it's like, that's so primal. Why wouldn't we? Right.
Yeah.
And so I like look back and it's like, I'm so grateful I have a good partner, and I'm so grateful that he was open to understanding my struggles, because had he not understood, we probably wouldn't have made it this long. It's like we had infertility issues, I had endometriosis, I bled through all the time. So there was never any shame. And I remember waking up one morning bleeding through, being like, whoa, pulling the sheets off. And he's like, no, go have a shower or a tub. I got this. And he took it. And then I sat in the tub and I just ugly cried because I was like, oh my gosh, he's taking care of me in a way that I had never had somebody honor that.
Yeah.
Because like most of my girlfriends would have hid that or done it themselves. And it's like he like inspired me to be okay with that and not have to hide away, right? And that's why we talk about this, is like, I want other women to have that experience with it. I want them to feel that they don't have to hide it. They don't have to be ashamed of it. Yeah. It's like it happens. It's a natural thing. And then that rolls into like period poverty, which is like a thing. I mean, so what do you feel about that? Because like I know that we live in northern BC in Canada. We have a high rate of people who are lower income and struggle with those things. So it's like period poverty is like a real topic here about giving it back.
And you shouldn't have to go to your principal's office to go get stuff.
No, because like they don't have them open in the high schools here or even in the schools.
Yeah.
Parker told me that they have to go to the office, which blows my mind. It's like, why?
My thoughts is that it should be available in each bathroom. So if you have gender bathrooms, it should be available in both bathrooms. And if non-gender bathrooms, then yay, good for you. And it should still be available. Because what if I have a really good guy friend and I just bled through my pants and I'm hanging out with what's his name and I go ask him to go get it for me? Yeah. Well, right? He's not going to go into the girls' room to go get me a tampon or stand out there being like, hey, can I get a tampon? Like when he could just as easily go into the guy's room and get a tampon.
Or the old like tampon up your sleeve, try to high five somebody or handshake to pass it on.
Yeah.
Or the non-crinkly tampon wrappers, which is legitimately a thing. Like even today, girls don't want to be making that noise in the stall next to other girls. And I think we really have to assess how much shame we've attached to that if I can't even have that conversation with my peers.
Yep. Or to feel like they're going to shame you because you're getting the same thing they get every month.
Yeah.
Because they heard you crinkling next door. It's like, why do we have to hide it, right? Like, why do we? And I have friends who identify as masculine who still need to use lady products. Yeah. Why are we shaming them by only making it accessible to women's bathrooms? Yeah. It's like, it's these conversations. It's like, why is it shameful? Why are we hiding it? Why is it taboo?
And then my other thought too is like having a principal's office is then you're also subject to adults who have their own stories written.
Yeah.
Whether it's a mom waiting to pick up homework, whether it's the principals themselves or whoever, they all have their own stories. And what is the chances that in this day and age that they're going to have a positive story?
Not very good. Or you get that predator energy where they're like, "Ooh, she's on her period. She looks like a woman." Oh, it like that happens. And I'm sad that it does for our women and for our world. I wish that wasn't there. But in my space that me and you work with and women that I work with, it's like, there is no predatory energy. It's like, you come on my Facebook or you say anything stupid, it's like, you are out. And I tell them off too. And it's like, you have predator energy. This is a sacred space. Womanhood cycles is sacred. You need to honor people.
Yeah. Well, I always like the narrative too of like, okay, what would the world look like if men got their period?
Kinder.
It would be an empowering thing. It wouldn't just be kinder. It would be like, dude,
I got my period.
I'm hyped up on testosterone.
Yeah, bro.
Yeah, bro. And it'd be available anywhere.
Yeah, it would. And that's the reality of things, right? It's like, and then they would be kinder to us, like having to like rest, because with endometriosis, it's like, I get like excruciating pain. Even without a uterus anymore, I still get those same. And it like puts me out. And it's like, if I was working like a normal, like 9-to-5 job, which I was, it's like, I would have to call in sick.
Yeah. Yeah, you use your sick days up because every month you have to like go, or like if you have endometriosis, even longer. And I have polycystic ovary syndrome. Yeah. So like same kind of deal. Sometimes I'm just knocked on my ass. Mm-hmm. Like I talk to a few guy friends and they're always just like, oh, you know, they're so bitchy stuff. I'm like, go be kind.
Yeah.
Like, oh, but you know, I'm running out of patience because it's like every month. And it's like, no, you just need to go be kind and like give them a chocolate, get them cookies, like just go be sweet on them because that's what they might need right now.
It's terrible for them every month. Imagine the person who has to suffer through that every month.
Yeah, and like so many of my guy friends and men I have that conversation with, that's like just because that's the stories they're told to grow up with. And so they have a hard time month in, month out coming at it from a place of compassion. Because they just see us being bitchy.
Yeah. And it's like, that's the kind of stuff they heard growing up, right? It's like, but now our men, so many of our men are stepping into this new energy where they're trying to be loving and trying to be understanding in an aspect, right? But they're not knowing what's the right way to do it.
Yeah.
They're not engaging in these conversations and asking their partner, like, what do you need? What can I do for you? Not to fix you, but what can I do for you?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so there's that weirdness.
Well, and newness though too, right? Because they're trying to like learn this whole new skill. Like I noticed like with my partners as well that I've had, you know, some of them were immediately more okay with it than others, and you could tell by it. There's definitely a difference there in how they were raised by their different people that they were raised by. And there's that newness to it when they're with somebody who's like, hey, no, I need this, or hey, I'm on my period. Like not just like shh, but like talking about it even, or hey, can you go get me tampons? There's like this newness to some people when like they're like, okay, no, I can go do this for my partner, and they're like, yay. Which I really hope to raise as boy moms.
Yes, me too. And that is like our goal for our boys, right? It's like to empower them, to help educate them and help them learn the language to communicate around it instead of adding shame to it.
Yeah.
Like Jesse got me tampons and pads one time because I bled through and I was stuck in a bathroom stall. He went and did that for me. He's also done that for other people who are not. He's okay with that. He's comfortable with, like, he understands, but it's like, how can we make period products accessible to everybody? And how can we get rid of this narrative of it's shameful? And how can we engage in these conversations where people understand how to even like insert them or do what's more comfortable, what is technically healthier, how do you work a diva cup, how, like, does it fall out? It's like all these conversations. We're seeing people be like on TikTok and Instagram, be like, this is a diva cup, I use it every month. But it's like, cool, please show me how to do it. Like, how do we do that? You say squish it and put it in. It's like, you need a little bit more than that.
Yeah. Yeah. And you know, like even when you go down the aisles, like there should be something with more blatant information so that you're not having to pick up every little thing to be like, because if you're a guy, like how overwhelming is that? You've never had to do it in your life.
Nope.
You haven't been taught on the subject, and now your girlfriend or friend just got her period. She's trapped somewhere, and you got like, what?
Yeah. Like calling, be like, is it Supreme? Is it Super? What does that mean?
What brand?
Meanwhile, in the United States, we can't even teach our school children about sex, much less period products, in approximately 70% of public schools.
Yeah.
Well, and that's becoming common up here too. It's like they're getting they're trying to talk about like transgender and open discussion in Canadian school systems, and they're getting parents like putting a halt on it, but then it's pulling away. It's like, well, they're not talking about periods either. They're talking about, this is your body, this is a vagina. It's like, that's not a vagina. Let's go back to that conversation, right? Like, let's call it what it is, please. And so they're getting like scientific evidence, but they're not getting the actual information they should be getting.
And parents aren't teaching it.
Nope.
It'd be great if we could leave
That's
that up
correct.
to parents.
Yeah.
Right?
But we cannot.
But you cannot.
No, and that's the fight, is they want parents to teach, but these parents are like, I don't want you to do it. I want to be able to tell my child myself. But they're not.
Yeah.
So where do we win here? Because we need to educate them and empower them.
Yeah. Well, and like parents are like, oh, they're so young. It's like, are they? Because like you should be teaching them about this stuff before they get it. Oh, I can't hear.
If the average age of this panel was 11, because I was 12, so that makes us 11 on average, then we should be having this conversation starting in 2nd and 3rd grade.
Yep. And talking with other moms, I'm hearing about how their daughters are getting it at like 9 and 10. So it's like a 9-year-old, and we're not telling them till like grade 5, grade 6, grade 7. It's like they don't know.
And it's too late by then.
Mm-hmm.
Because when we don't have the conversation at all, we normalize the shame around it. That's what happens.
Yeah.
And I was doing research recently and talking with a public health nurse here in Canada, and she was talking about like body issues and body low self-esteem and how it's connected to like being ashamed of our periods. It's like they're doing this research, and it's like that's the first key to like it catapulting to other reasons, right? So girls are like hating themselves at that very moment, or being ashamed or scared and everything, which is, it's all valid, but it's like, I wish they didn't feel that, because then they start to dislike different parts of themselves because of that.
Or if they feel that way, that it was then that there was conversation at least available, so that if you were feeling that way, you knew that other people felt that way, and then you could heal from it. So it wasn't this like year-long, decades-long shame, right? It was just, you got to feel that this like sorrow and grief, which is I think more than okay.
Absolutely.
And then you get to heal from it right away. Like there's a community there. Do you remember it was probably like 5 years ago, it went viral, and that mom had thrown that red party for her daughter?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Right? If something like that happened, or maybe that's the extreme, but like it was more normalized, and you could still have your shame, you could still have your grief for the loss of like a childhood of not worrying about that stuff, because you're still a child. You are still a child, just now you have to worry about hormones and everything else, but you're still a child. So the loss of your childhood without having your menstrual, you can grieve that. That's okay. But then there should be like an empowerment aspect to it within the same month.
I agree with you. I completely. And it's like, to be very honest, I didn't heal my issues with my period and my endometriosis until I had a hysterectomy. Yeah. And it's like, I've been healing it slowly over the years, but it's like 4 years ago, almost 4 years ago now. Yeah. That was like, it cut it off, and I was like, and it felt like a weight off my shoulders, and I was like, I don't have to fear it.
And it rocked your world though, because like I was new you during that time, and like I just remember some of the feelings, like it was such a hard time for you, because you had that like, yay, it doesn't happen anymore, but at the same time, like you had this incredible grief.
Yeah, and there was a lot of grief, because it was like, well, if I'm a woman and I can't have babies, then why did you give me all these parts? And I was like angry about it. I was like, why do you make me suffer if I can't stay pregnant or do what other women do? And like, it's the reason why I've taken so much education and learning, is because I was like looking for answers for myself. It was like, I know that I struggle like asking for help. I was gonna laugh, because I'm like, you all know this. It's like I struggle with asking for help, because I feel when I have in the past, I've been let down or I've been led astray. And so now it's like, I'm healing that. I'm building community with like Briar and all these beautiful women, and you, of course. And it's like, but during that, it's like I've had to educate myself to feel that way. And now it's like, I have this like basket of wisdom that I'm like, I just want to help other people feel empowered of their own menstrual cycles. How do we track it instead of being on birth control? How do we feel sexy while we're on it? And when I say sexy, it's like, that's not for everyone, and that's okay. But how do we like look at ourselves and be like, you're a bad bitch, you did good today, right? Like, give yourself a pat on the back.
We should have like little menstrual stickers being like, for every day of your period, you're a bad bitch, and you get to put your sticker on every morning. You like switch out your product. I'm a bad bitch.
Yes, you got your gold star today, girl.
Yeah. I sat on the couch and ate chocolate. Yes.
I didn't touch anybody. Yes. But it's like, we need to start like bringing that humor and the lightness back to it, instead of thinking it's like doomsday. It's like doomsday. And I think because like talking about puberty and sexuality and like masturbation and all these things with our children, like when they become appropriate, instead of shaming them, because it's like so often society's like, put a sock on the door if it's a boy. But why are we not being like, well, that's actually a normal process, and you will feel that way too, and you're going to feel like tingly down there, and you shouldn't be ashamed. And this is what mucus looks like, and sometimes you get extra mucus, and it's not always bad. And
Yeah, and to check yourself, how to check yourself, because you should be learning as a young woman how to check yourself and how to follow that, and so that if something's weird, just the same as you do for your breasts, right? If something just gets weird, then you know, right? And then you can keep track of it.
Yeah, and we don't have youth like struggling with a yeast infection for 8 months because they were ashamed to tell anybody they had it.
Yeah.
Right.
Right? And it's like, that's a thing. I know it's a thing. I've talked with people, or being scared of it, like thinking that they're like bad for having it.
Well, and yeah, and like how easy you can do to make it tracking, right? I just put a period in my calendar.
Yep.
Right, done. And actually, I make it a red one in my calendar. And like, you don't, because there's all these apps and things, but like, really, like, we can make it super easy and accessible for people.
Absolutely. Mine's got devil horns.
Nice.
But ideally, we're teaching this to young girls when it's actually going to impact their personal growth and development rather than be an afterthought of a thing. Oh, I guess I have this body. I'm supposed to know this about it. The connotations are so completely different.
Having your maid teacher be advertisements.
Ooh, there you go. How much did we all learn from Tampax?
Like a supermodel holding a tampon wrapper. Not even like, I don't even remember how long it was until I actually saw what a tampon looks like. I think it was even when I started using them. It wasn't like a known thing because it's discreet packaging. Why would
I was
you
the
know
same.
what looks like it?
Yeah.
Yeah, the packaging is the least of our problems.
Right?
Really.
And then you get the picture, and it's like this picture of a butt with a thing in it. And you're like, what does that mean?
You're like, I don't think they go in butts. I don't think they go. That's a good point, actually. I just said it's like even letting them know where they bleed from, and like where urine comes from, because there's grown men who don't understand. There's two differences there.
It's crazy.
We do not have time for that part of the show, y'all. We are gonna have to wrap that up right there. However, next week we're talking about sex.
Yep, we are.
Yep.
So I'm looking forward to that discussion. Jen, tell the people where they can find you.
Cat Purple Moose Portraits on Instagram or Facebook, or have a website.
And what are they doing? I mean, according to your Facebook page, you're taking pictures of children with Santa right now.
Tis the season. Tis the season. No, so people, I love to shoot families because a lot of times moms don't get to have good family portraits. So that's a lot of people's first introduction to me, actually, is coming for their headshot or their family portrait. And then it's usually when I'm booking that with them that they're like, oh, and I thought about boudoir. I'm like, yes.
Yeah.
Let's explore more about that, and let's give it, it's like, have a consultation with about it. So like, either they can actually, fun thing you should do is you can come have your hair and makeup done if you want, or come as is, get your family photo done first, and then they can leave and you can have boudoir for the rest of the session. So you really get to have the both the best worlds. And it's all, we do consultations, we talk about where you are in life, what you love about yourself, what you're self-conscious about, what is your style, how best to represent yourself and the person you are right now, or is it you're trying to do something that's like not the person you are right now, but maybe this like other version of yourself. Or is it fine art where you want to do like artistic nudes? Like, we have a whole consultation to talk about all of that. And then Alex could talk to how it makes her feel, and that other half, I feel like I can do the pitch all day, but having somebody who's actually been through it is actually better. So I will actually let Alex say how it made her feel.
Yeah, it was really good. We met during a self-love journey that she hosted for women, and I was one of the very few that actually followed through the whole way. So she started with simple pictures and simple playfulness, and we talked about loving ourselves, and it was correlated with like my education and my journey at that time. It's like I was working through sexual health education and all these other things. So it was really powerful. And you know what? She's been taking pictures of me for like 7 years now. So it's like,
and so it obviously worked.
It works. Yeah. And she's wonderful. It's very comfortable and safe. That's the one thing.
Oh, thank you.
And Alex, you have a program coming up in January. Tell us about it.
Okay, so I have Become Your Medicine, and I think it's a very important program. It's going to talk about all these things that we're talking about now, but also how to pull it out within yourselves and how to look inwards when we're looking for answers and safety. It's all about activating our sensuality and understanding it, and not without shame and judgment. This is going to be a space where most of these women have talked about sexual trauma or birth trauma or things that they've never been able to talk about. And we're going to be doing it one-on-one, but also in a group aspect. So I'm looking forward to it. We have 5 women enrolled already, and I have some spots available.
And I just want you to know you've got this really pretty sunlight aura around your face. It's absolutely perfect timing. And they can find you where, Alex?
So I'm also on Instagram as Braided Directions. I'm on Facebook as Alex Watt, which some of you have. I also have my Facebook page, which is Braided Directions. You can catch me at all those spots.
As you
Y'all,
should.
Yeah, and you should.
I really enjoyed this conversation today, and I am so grateful, Jen, that you could join us for this. Alex, we will be speaking again in 2 weeks, talking about sex. Tell us a little bit about our guest for that one.
So we have Kelly Ray and Jen, actually, if she's going to make it. We're going to have 2 guests next week, and it's going to be interesting because we're going to talk about sex, like totally unhinged. It's going to be so wonderful. There's going to be not a lot of boundaries. No, there'll be boundaries, but I mean, we're going to be open and be very raw about it. I want to talk about feeling bi, being bi, openness to sex, being into kink and fetish, and it's going to be really good.
Very exciting. So that episode, y'all, will be on December 29th, and you can join us here live. You can find this here on the Neurodiversity Media Network, and we are so glad you could join us for our inaugural episode. Thank you so much, everyone, for being here, and y'all have an incredible day. Bye now.
Bye.